particular man I'd like you to meet. He was a wonderful man that I was fortunate enough to spend some time with a while back now. And we met, in a hotel actually in Eastbourne. And we're talking about this wonderful man called Ray Brace. Now, Ray was the former manager of a spectacular theatre in the very heart of West Yorkshire, the Dewsbury Empire. Should I say an assistant manager? But, to me, Ray was just, well, he oozed whatever a manager should be. Very articulate, a lot of fun, and told wonderful stories. And so today I really wanted to share a little bit of his story about what it was like working with some of the big stars that came to this very small, heavy woolen district town. And you have to remember, this is people that came here long before the fame became the fame, And you look and think, why would they do that? Why would they? But of course, as he said, this was their living. They travelled around. Dewsbury Empire was a big date for a lot of people, including the former comic superstars, people like Morecambe and Wise. Everybody went through those doors. Sadly, like many different theatres today, it's now an office block, and even that apparently now is going to be pulled down. Can you imagine if they'd have kept the theatre? It would have been marvellous to have seen it in its glory. It closed down in the middle 50s and I think eventually pulled down in the early 60s to be replaced, as I say, by an office block. But Ray had wonderful memories as a young boy working there, going back home, having his dinner, coming back to see the shows. And then he got promoted to the wonderful showbiz mecca that was Blackpool. And that is a totally different story. But for now, let's just hear a few snippets of Ray sharing his life at the Dewsbury Empire. And as ever, I've often said this, chums, isn't it nice that we have these wonderful people of a certain vintage still with us, able to share so much? So, lovely to finally meet you, Ray. Fellow Yorkshire person, right? So how did you get involved in the Dewsbury Empire? Because you're a Dewsbury boy, born and bred. How did that path lead to getting into the biggest theatre in Dewsbury?
Well, my mother was an usherette, Dewsbury Empire.
What was her name?
Marion.
Marion.
Long gone, of course. Well, 18 years ago. And she knew the stage manager, Duncan McLennan. And Duncan was looking for a light boy for the side of the stage.
What's a light boy? What did a light boy do?
The young guy that runs about putting the lights, and after the set's put up, he puts the lights in certain places. So I did that for a few months and then went on to the main stage staff and eventually assistant stage manager and eventually stage manager.
What did your mum think to that though? Did your mum, because northern women, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Did she want you to get involved in that, or was she theatrical, or was she just, working there for a job?
A very good singer in amateur things, but no, she wasn't professional or anything like that. But yes, she was very much liked the professional stage, loved the artists, and got friendly with a lot of the artists that we had at the Empire.
And describe Dewsbury at that time, because obviously now, all of these places changed, but it would be, as you said, it was a big place, people went there because it was a big, you had a big thriving industry, plus a big theatre industry. You got the Playhouse and various cinemas and stuff.
Yeah, at the time, I think the population was about 55,000, and Dewsbury was a wonderful town at that time. The mills were doing well, the woolen mills, that is. There were 5 theatres in the cinemas in the town, and probably one of the biggest theatres in Yorkshire, in Dewsbury Empire.
Yeah. Now you sent me a lovely picture of yourself, and there's I think 3 or 4 of you young boys in this picture. Mm-hmm. Where was it taken and what was the event? Can you remember?
It was taken at the Dewsbury Town Hall, and it was the policeman's ball. I think it was 1954. There was myself, Barry Human, who was the chief electrician, and Bill Stevenson, who was the theatre manager. His father ran the theatre, Richard Stevenson.
And what was he like? Was he a tough manager? Because, I'm guessing, Bill, that at that time, sorry, Ray, I'm guessing at that time, it would be difficult because telly's now kicking in and you're struggling to get audiences to come in, you know, and so
Yeah.
was it hard, you know, did you see a downturn?
Mainly in the summer months it was difficult. And at that time we always put in the Saxon players for about 3 months, which was a repertory company with a big star name. Many of the names of the era, Michael Rennie, Billy Whitelaw played a short season there. Tony Newley, he played 2 seasons there with us in the summer seasons. But in the winter, the pantomime carried the theatre.
And so that carried it over for the next period.
12, 14 weeks, absolutely full every evening and every afternoon show.
Wow. So a quick mention of Anthony Newley. I was lucky enough to meet him myself, but what was he like? What was your memory of him?
Well, Tony was about the same age as me, so we got on very well together. In fact, I left halfway through one of those seasons to do my national service in the army, and he bought me a shaving kit, which I kept for many years, but it's gone.
It's lovely though, isn't it? When you saw them, when their star really shot up, you know,
Yeah.
and he's suddenly like this big Hollywood star now and that. It's strange, isn't it, when you've met them at the beginning and you
That's
think of them
right.
in little Dewsbury, as it
Yeah,
were. You know,
but of course he was, he had made a couple of films at that time. I think
yeah.
Vice Versa perhaps, and another one I can't remember the name of. But he was a fair name, but he wanted experience of a repertory company. So that's what we did.
Was it an interesting thing in the sense of that, do you think now, the difference, say, in your period was that you rightly said Anthony Newley, already quite a big name, but prepared to go to somewhere like Dewsbury and develop. You know, today you wouldn't have that. You know, they'd say West End, Broadway.
He wants to be a star.
Yeah.
They want to be a star straight away, unfortunately today.
Yeah.
But yes, he wanted the experience of acting, and as you well know, repertory. You are performing one play, you're rehearsing hard for the next one, and you're reading for the one after that. So you've 3 on the go at one time.
Yeah. You mentioned, of course, the pantomimes. And you mentioned there was a particular guy called Reg. Now, what was he called? Reg
Bolton.
But what was Reg like? Because was he a bit of a legend in the area for doing his pantomimes?
Absolutely. He was a legend everywhere in the north. In fact, I've got a photograph when he appeared in the old, not the Queen's Theatre, but Feldman's Theatre before that in Blackpool. And he'd been there for 10 seasons. So he was a legend in Blackpool as well as Dewsbury. And Reg was Uncle Reg to everybody. He was such a wonderful man.
On the picture that you sent me, there's a poster on the back with his name on, and the other person was Hilda Baker.
Yes.
Now, I'd met Hilda Baker very briefly myself towards the end of her life. A tough woman, Ray.
Yeah.
Was she tough in that period, or was she a bit warm?
At that period, it coincided with my national service, so I didn't do that particular pantomime that Hilda Baker performed in. But I later did a season with her at Morecambe.
And what was she like? You know, describe for those that don't know her act. Explain to me what she did. You know.
Well, she did the thing with the tall guy, and she had so many different ones of those Cynthia's. Very funny, and she also did one as a usherette, coming out of the audience and selling ice creams and such like.
And was that funny?
Oh yeah, very funny. Perhaps not today.
Yeah.
Humour's changed so much.
Yeah. But was she a friendly person to people?
Very much so.
On stage?
Very much so. But she wanted to be called, with most people, Miss Baker.
Yeah.
She was all right, friendly enough, and joined in everything. She organised a bowling league for us. So she was very friendly.
A nice lady, yeah.
As ever, thank you so much for taking the time out to join me today in this welcome look back at nostalgia. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you've ever been to a theatre like that, or indeed you visited the wonderful Dewsbury Empire, who did you see? When did you see them? And were you sad that it was pulled down? It's always good to find new memories. I'm sure you'll agree. As ever, thank you so much for watching. Neil Sean in the very heart of Kensington.